Okay, just another video. Today is the 16th of July. So I'm gonna do this video. I haven't planned too much because I want to do some reflections that I think are worth it to catch. Just because I find that I just want to think and talk. Usually I cannot concentrate on one thing, as let's say I'm not allowing the neural weapon, so I wanted to do some reflections and why not to make them live. So this is about Palestine. So one of the most interesting, let's say, commentaries that I heard were from Slavoj Žižek. He describes the Palestinians as the, again, translation from the Palestinians as the Jewish of the Arab world. So the Palestinians are the Jewish of the Arab world. So that's what Zizek says. So what does it mean? Like, okay, the Jewish always rejected wherever they go. They wandering people, and the Second World War, the Holocaust. And one of the things that comes to point out is that the Holocaust happened. I'm not saying there were 6 million or not, but definitely it was a political strategy used by Hitler, because when the most powerful person guides the people, saying that the solution is precisely to eliminate, to kill, to disappear, to inhabilitate, to emasculate the most vulnerable communities, persons, or groups in the society, then it's because power is not accountable. No one can stop that. Oh, well, depending on the situation. But usually that's what happens in, let's say, in extreme situations in which you have this kind of cycle that whatever structure that is power hungry creates a being that eventually convince the people, because the people has been disposed, especially from cognitive tools, let's say critical thinking, education. They are far away from reality. They have been kind of displaced from the truth in which we live. And when that happens, then power can simply say so stupid things like the problem are these immigrants mothers that I don't know, people that is super poor with low skills that is taking your jobs, etc., etc., etc. Then the same thing is happening in the Palestinian situation. So you have in this case Israel, that during Second World War were rejected, were immigrants around the world, wandering people that will not participate in government, will not be included in most of the systems, but rather second-class citizens or third class. Like we heard things about the Jewish ghetto in Poland. So then, what we see nowadays in Gaza is everyone knows that seems to be the history of the Jewish during Second World War. But that's clear. But for some reason, our brain, our society, most of the people do not recognize it as the same event. I mean, maybe that's precisely what happened to the Jews. Let's say if I support Hamas, then it means that everyone in Palestine becomes Hamas. If I support Israel, then everyone in Palestine becomes Hamas. There is if I support Palestine, then I support Hamas. So we got Hamas, Palestine, and Israel. So we got three factors there. So Hamas is a terrorist group, recruits kids anywhere from the, not just the Palestinian society, but anywhere. I say that they are terrorists because they use child immolation, forced recruitment, and they create also the situation in which people blows up and they try to create indiscriminate destruction. So then, okay, Hamas is a terrorist group. The Palestinians is a tribe that is also Semite. I mean, the only Semites are not the Jews. That's why for Zionism it's so important to, well, for the moment, secure the meaning of what is to be Semite. But Semite are many other languages that are close as well to Aramean, to Hebrew, and the Arab language is also Semite language, and of course the Palestine are one of the Semite tribes. So the Semites are a huge kind of family of languages, yeah. So then we have that Israel will not recognize civilians in Palestine. They are only terrorists. And well, Hamas is also a group that lives for the destruction of Israel or something like that. The Palestinians is people sometimes, according with the videos that I'm seeing, is that the Palestinians are pissed off with Hamas, believe me. For the Palestinians to regroup and form another group to go against Hamas is a quite complicated situation. Let's say during the war, if you are a kid who start to experience the war, you travel with your family just to avoid the bombs. You left your home behind because it's totally destroyed. You know that your neighbors are dead because you saw them die when the bombs came out just before you left with your family. You continue traveling in the Gaza Strip, and more bombs fall. Part of your family start to die, whilst you kind of go away from the bombs. You start to see what is the blood, flesh, and people who used to be alive now is dead. You start to know what is to be sleeping on the street, not having food, destruction everywhere, waking up every day, months in which bombs do not stop to fall, and screams, women crying, women attached to the bodies of their dead babies for days. Um, uh, a lot of blood, flesh again everywhere. There is no time, there is not, let's say, even resources, energy to bury the bodies. And then you continue traveling with your family, being in a more enclosed space, more desperate. Everyone is traumatized. Everyone is wondering if God exists. Everyone is wondering if this is a dream. No one can explain how this can be possible. And as you continue trying to survive with your family, you then are the only one left from your family. Then you might find that the only solution that you have is to join Hamas. Yeah. And then uh, we have something called the Dahiyya doctrine. The Dahiyya doctrine. Okay, I'm just gonna read from Wikipedia. But okay, let's see if I can find it from. Okay, the Institute of Middle East understanding. Okay, let's see if I can place my monitor. Okay, so here we go. This is the institute. Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, sorry. This is the Institute for Middle East Understanding. Sorry, I'm not too adept to this technology, and I wasn't prepared to show any kind of website, but okay. So look at this. The Dahiyya doctrine is an Israeli military doctrine that calls for the use of massive, disproportionate force and the deliberate targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure. So the Dahiyya doctrine is an Israeli military doctrine that calls for the use of massive, disproportionate force and the deliberate targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure. I'll just repeat because, yeah, as I say, the new weapons is stopping to talk and cannot pronounce properly. It seems very racist because no immigrant can speak more fluent English, especially in Australia. You know, the military Australian is technically the head of the military in Australia is appointed by the crown, so you don't really know if it's Australian, honestly. It's not what I think Australian would like. But okay, so so we have the massive disproportionate force and the deliberate targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure. So massive disproportionate force, it means that big explosions, yeah, deliberate targeting of civilians and civilians infrastructure. So this is about you target one single um, you target one single okay, are you gonna shit. I'm trying to change the camera now, but okay. I'll try to, to finish it. So you target a terrorist, but the idea is that you won't target terrorists when it's alone. You will try to target the terrorists among the population. That way you create more chaos. Yeah. So that's the idea. That's the Hijab doctrine and Israeli use of disproportionate force. That's everywhere. So it seems obvious that it has been always the case. Yeah. It has been obvious that technically this is what we have been seeing, and then you will see that the manipulation of symbols and definitions by the Israeli state spokesman and whatever is about um, defining. Okay, just one second. Okay, I'm trying to. Well, this is a disaster. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to see how this way webcam works, but it seems that okay, cool. Just modifying the camera. So this video, I'm not a professional streamer. As I say, I did not plan today's video. I usually never plan today's video, but I think I'm just gonna do a kind of reflection as we go. Then, yeah, the Dahija doctrine is technically this idea that if you can cause chaos among the population, then it will put you in an advantage. Because let's say if you're gonna do an operation that needs to be specific, usually it's really difficult to have in mind all the factors uh, in which you will control the situation and have the outcome that you have. But one of the easiest solutions just to make your enemy weaker or create opportunities for you to make the enemy weaker is just to create chaos. Yeah. So imagine, let's say you have, I don't know, let's say North Korea fighting the United States. Yeah. You never heard about North Korea, yeah, sending a ship, not even close to the United States, but you hear about North Korea attacking United States in the cyber sphere. Yeah. Well, this is because precisely we know that United States has a bigger capability that is military, and North Korea will try to use means that will be not as precise, but will cause some kind of turmoil. Yeah. So then it is easy to create turmoil if you cannot simply create the outcome that you want. And then you just, let's say, oh fuck, I cannot make my adversary to do this, then I just gonna bother him. Yeah, that's one of the, let's say, simple doctrines that will, I don't know, be common, I guess. Yeah. So then uh, we have the, well, what concerns me the most is that we are seeing a historical event. We are seeing Palestine, that is a territory, I mean, there is not conformed government because there has been always a kind of uh, fight for the land. That land was colonized. There were maps in which that land gonna be spread among different colonial powers. And the creation of Israel comes from this a Zionist ideology that is to have a state, a land for the people of Israel, the wandering people. Many people in Israel disagree, but they also do not recognize the state of Israel because they are still waiting for the Messiah that will give them the land. And the Zionist doctrine then becomes also a kind of actor because when we have the Hamas, Palestinians, Israel, and Zionism, we have four different things here. Yeah, we have Palestinian civilians, these people that simply wants to be part of the economy, work, raise their children, send them to school, and while practicing whatever they have to practice, if this is their beliefs, going on holidays, or maybe doing a kind of art, I don't know, human things, yeah? So they simply, they prefer no war in that case. Then we have Hamas, they are motivated by an ideology, and Hamas will have means that are considered nowadays, yeah, as well as a kind of terrorism. This is as well the creation of terror, because terror does produce also chaos, an outcome that is not precise, but also an outcome that weakens, terrorize your enemy, and you cannot control because simply, let's say, when a bomb explodes in the middle of let's say, a market, If it's Hamas doing that, then Hamas cannot ensure that they will not kill Palestinians. They might end up killing Palestinians. Yeah, but they assume, okay, we do this in a market where there is a lot of people from Israel, then yeah, that will cause some turmoil, and also that will, I don't know, or whatever the objective that they have, they will think that will be a strength. Okay, whatever. We have Israel as a state, uh, mainly, well, seems nowadays that is a kind of one religion state, or that's the, but then we have a state with the army, institutions, blah, 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 blah. But this kind of one religion state is also part of a doctrine that is called Zionism. And Zionism, as far as I know, does not have a doctrine. It's not a set of rules or beliefs. Where Zionism might be a kind of uh, only Hebrew state in the land where that they are now inhabiting, and let's say Jerusalem and many other like temples, places, historical places that are in that area are sacred for the three Abrahamic religions: Catholicism, uh, uh, the well now is the Judaism, and also the Islamism. So every time, yeah, we think about Israel, mainly people think that they are only Jews, but there are also Catholics living there. Obviously, we have seen on videos online that most of the people who is uh, Muslim, then they will be rejected somehow, uh, especially Palestinians. So it seems that maybe it's a culture that Zionism is created inside Israel to total distrust and paranoia against anyone who is Islamic, who is Muslim. And we don't think that there are Catholics, Christians living in Palestine, but they are. But this has been also kind of hidden from Catholics, and this has been hidden uh, for other Christians, and hidden from the mainstream, and hidden even from the view of other Jews. Yeah, maybe they think that they are fighting only Palestinians, but Palestinians, we don't know. I don't know personally. More be that only, or the people who inhabit the territory of Palestine, they might not be only of Islamic faith. They might be atheists, agnostics, and they are Christians, Catholics as well. So then, this assumption that everyone who lives there is a terrorist is is also something that, let's say, we compare it with Hitler. Is Hitler also saying that every single Jewish was damaging the economy, was raping the German girls, was destroying the dream of the German Nazis, and etc., etc., etc. So yeah, Zizek's praise about the Palestinians being the Jewish of the Arab world, yeah, it becomes very important because you will have the Palestinians. So the Palestinians might have the chance to go and inhabit another land in the Arab world, or even be spread around the world, because we need to save this culture. Is one of the most important uh, situations that we might not be aware happening right now in the world. Uh, for historical factors. Let's say the Second World War started in Europe after Japan invaded China, but then Hitler invaded Palestine. For that, Nazi Germany had to do a pact with the Soviet Union, dividing Poland in half. And when Poland was divided in half, both invade and no one disagreed. It was allowed. Technically, they just invade Poland and no one intervened, and everyone knew it. But right now, we are seeing something that might be compared to it, because United States says that they're gonna take, or Trump, America First policy says that they're gonna take a part of Palestine to develop something. I don't know what they're gonna develop there. Most likely a military base. So we shouldn't be surprised if there is a deployment of United States military into Gaza, and maybe they will be initially protecting the terrain in a, let's say, limited manner, so they could create, develop a construction team. But usually what happens is once the military is there, they never leave. And so that becomes a base, and also, I don't know, residential place, whatever, Donald Trump has more experience in this field of development and infrastructure, so I'm not really sure what they're gonna do there. But Trump has voiced his intentions to the United States taking part of the territory of Palestine. Then, what could that mean if we have also Israel using the Dahiyya doctrine? Let's say you see that there 3,000 bombs explode in Lebanon. The day that that operation happened was the last day I experienced this kind of psychosis. And then it was the day that I thought, okay, I'm gonna pay attention. What the hell is happening in my mind? And then I noticed, oh shit, this is AI. And since then, I've been just standing my ground. That's AI. I have not taken my meds for 2 months because I haven't needed to do. As I say, at this stage, there is a lot of people in the intelligence community who knows about me because, as I said before, they try to mind control me, so they could push me in a situation that I could get so angry that they helped me doing deliberate and undiscriminate violent attack against the Australian population. But they didn't know who I was. So obviously they couldn't control my mind because I'm not a person who is violent. I'm not a person who believes that violence is the solution. I'm not against the enforcement, which is the use of righteous violence for enforcement, but I'm not one to enforce. Yeah. So then, simply, I do believe that also, whether even if I have the chance to enforce, then the use of violence should be one of the most sacred things that a civilization could have by default. Yeah, because it's the base of the organization of the society. Authority is about having the power to enforce, and if you don't do that, let's say, in a righteous, systematic way, but you do it maybe because the wants of power demand, then you will have a kind of imbalance because you are denying the feelings that could wake up, and you will see yourself in a place, yeah, in turmoil, violence, war, no stability, etc., etc., etc. Well, but well, I wanted to do another point. Uh, United States moving bases over there and having this kind of beef that they have with Lebanon, in which 3,000 bombs exploded, a lot of people died, a lot of people got blind with no hands. It means that these people are gonna be disabled with, and it will become part of the view, the panorama of Lebanon, seeing people who that day got hurt. Yeah, people without hands, people with injuries in their torso. Because remember that this kind of uh, pagers exploded when a message arrived, and then the pagers exploded in the hands of people, in their faces, in their torsos, in their bags, in their pockets. So you will see a lot of people, and the people next to those persons who had the pagers who also got injured, and you will have created already a traumatized society, a society that if do not have the right psychological tools will develop some hate, and it again will create uh, a border in which frictional information will manifestate as violence, and we are talking about the north of Israel, the south of Lebanon, plus a US base. Yeah. So then we will have United States supporting Israel at this spot if there is any future conflict against Lebanon. I do believe that this is not necessarily in the age of AI. I think that it's possible to create economic systems in which you will have transactions happening just because they are efficient. When Israel needs something that Lebanon can supply, or Lebanon needs something that Israel can supply, without the need of having war. But why this is important? Well, for two reasons. One of the reasons, let's say this is the AI doing its thing, like they want me to scratch my eye, and mostly the times I do that in my videos because the AI will not stop to bother me. If, yeah, if I mean they just use this kind of technology in which they create the sensation that you need to scratch, and they won't stop unless I scratch my eye. So there are two situations. There's the first is the doctrine of terrorism. The second one is the AI situation. So I see myself being a victim of what is that doctrine of terrorism because I was never a threat to society. I am not a threat to society. I'm someone who always thought that violence is not the the answer. I might be a kind of pacifist, but I do not believe that. I mean, you have to be pacifist the whole time, but I do not believe that the exacerbate massive disproportionate force and the deliberate targeting of civilians and civilian infrastructure is the answer. Uh, so terrorism is about trying to stop the terrorists that wants to terrify society, no? Maybe people that wants to create terror in society. The first thing, the most difficult thing to comprehend is why these people would want to do that. But okay, I won't go into that. But what I know in my experience is that they tried to mind control me so I could have created a terrorist attack. And if I was, if I was mind control, if I were to be mind control, um, then yeah, if I would have been mind control, I would, I mean, I would have made news around the world. Yeah, something like as the Bondi massacre, in which then I would have appeared in the news in Colombia, and as I say in our videos, I met a general in Colombia, I met colonels, I met um, people who is or was I don't know is extreme right. Myself, I was born in a town in which um, we couldn't go out to the street some days because the paramilitaries will say today there is social cleansing. So we will stay in our homes, and the next day we will hear about people who got shot or who just got murdered the day before because they say social cleansing to eliminate anyone who they don't want in the society. And the social cleansing under the uh, Alvaro Uribe's government. It is known that during his government, between 4,000 to 50,000 people was presented in the news as terrorists. They were presented as guerrilla fighters, etc. And yeah, I was living at that time in Colombia. Right now, we have a left-wing government that is the first left-wing government that ever existed since the foundation of Colombia, 200 years. So it's very interesting. But okay, so terrorism, as I see it, is not someone who comes from abroad, from far away to terrorize whatever the West, the center of the economy. What I experience is that they tried to mind control me to make me a terrorist because I saw what is the situation to be in a lone wolf. A lone wolf. So a lone wolf will be a person that is randomly, or in time attacking the population, who is isolated, who doesn't have friends, who doesn't have many contacts, who is by itself, and who plans an attack against society. Yeah. So this kind of people usually is people who fall into, let's say, rabbit holes, or what is that, like echo chambers, or kind of, um, this situation about uh, believing conspiracies, or maybe brainwashing situations, etc. But I experienced that myself, hearing the voices and seeing a relation that it was directed to my social media. So in social media, I will see things related with terrorism, the Islamic State, and I will see things related, a lot of violence with UFC, narco traffic, and things like that. But when I start to watch things about the Islamic State for no reason whatsoever. I mean, my feed start to show me things about the Islamic State, and then I will hear voices, and then me realizing that, okay, I've been hearing these voices for a long time, and they really piss me off sometimes. But I will not scream because, first, I wouldn't need. Second, the first day I start to talk to those voices, I notice I'm talking by myself, and I cannot see these people. So then, who is these people? But these people who I will hear will feel that is something out of myself. It's out of my being. It's not related with my unconscious. It's not related with anything. I also notice that they will not tell me anything that I don't know, and I notice that will not tell me anything before I have a phone or before my friends at school start to have a phone. Yeah, the oldest piece of information that I remembering kind of tracing was when we were, well, in one of our classes, my friends say something, and it seems that that conversation was recorded because the voices bringing it back, and they would bring things related with that day. And I used to not have a phone at the time. But if someone got that information, it's because they probably were recording from my friends' phones. But before I was like, let's say, 14 years old, yeah, around, yeah, before I was 13, 14 years old, the voices cannot tell me anything, yeah. But just recently, after I got those scans done in Swinburne University. After that happened, then I've been noticing that this technology got a few updates, and as I speak, I'm having more high-pitched sounds. And when the Swinburne University did those scans, not blaming the university, but after that happened, yeah, they used two of the most powerful machines that you find in the southern hemisphere. And I do believe with the AI updates that they have had recently, then it has been possible through also the use of Wi-Fi as sonars who will see also my mental signature, identify where certain clusters of information exist. I have noticed that some of my memories had changed in the way in which they had become, especially the visual ones, kind of sharper, but rendering high definition memories. And it is strange because memories that I have that used to be 2D, like watching a TV, becomes 3D because I was able to distinguish that these were 2D before, and I remember that. So then it's possible to do this kind of modulation nowadays. And then it jumps to the second point that is not only terrorism the problem, because terror you can blame, I mean, Israel can grow as a fungus in a petri dish, not saying that Israel is a fungus or something, but let's say Zionism could develop or could point the Israeli people, the IDF, in a situation in which they always permanently will be fighting and spreading like in a petri dish towards Lebanon and other countries. And terrorism itself, by its nature, will always see the Muslims as people who, yeah, were outsiders, the barbarous. It's a kind of Western kind of rhetoric that just became Also recently well known, let's say you will have the Crusaders fighting for the cross against the barbarous, those who live beyond our borders, those who do not have manners, etiquette, I don't know, the cannibals, all that sort of stuff. Those who doesn't follow our ways or something like that. So yeah, terrorism could become a problem as a doctrine, but then terrorism doesn't mix up well with AI. Because if this is happening to me, then in the future we will have the possibility that an army could dominate the minds of people, in which people will not have fear when going to war, will not feel pain when being hurt, will not experience depression, sadness, they will not cry when they are in the battlefield, but instead they will be stimulated just, on electromagnetic steroids, just to feel high, just to feel euphoria in the fights, and to feel uh, this kind of uh, artificial feeling of things being fine even when they are being totally detached from reality, because their feelings have become artificial. So it's a kind of dehumanization. Myself, I feel that I've been treated as a subhuman, like a tool, like a piece of mass, like my humanity is not respect. Uh, like these systems have no purpose whatsoever, and under the doctrine of utilitarianism, then they believe, they assume that whatever I have to put forward or to live in this world is whatever they think is better for the greatest purpose, and know what I think is the greatest purpose. And I know by fact that the person who target me, whether it's a group, policymaker, and the military, definitely they have a lesser IQ than me. Definitely they are less intelligent. They thought I was someone who will be easy to manipulate. They thought that I will be someone who will not notice anything of what was going on. I also am a person who is kind of autistic, so I don't recognize a few, or let's say you will have people who is extremely adjust to society to the point that they are not themselves but do everything for society. In the other side of the spectrum, you have people like myself and others who do not follow symbols imposed by society or norms or rules, but instead we create another, let's say, I would say, depending on the situation, we will follow a way to approach life that will be more adjust to humans. Yeah. Then, uh, yeah, you will see people like Elon Musk dominating different fields of symbology, different kinds of communication, different kinds of fields that is related with business, engineering, or politics, etc. So then, okay, in the future, AI will not mix with this kind of doctrine pretty well, because not only soldiers will be manipulated in ways that will dehumanize them, but also, in my experience, this kind of technology could dangerously capture what makes us special, because we are following dynamics of the Stone Age. These are dynamics of war of the Stone Age, with the state-of-the-art technology. So this means that we have the most advanced technology that could even create something smarter than us, and we are using that as if we were cavemen. So this is the equivalent to, instead of cavemen throwing rocks, they are throwing themselves or making a war with mobile phones. Yeah. So imagine, I don't know, 10,000 years ago, cavemen throwing themselves mobile phones because, I don't know, it seems to be the better rock or artifact to use. So then it makes you wonder why. What is the reason of war? And we are not talking about the main, let's say, the main ethics that we should follow for enforcement, the main whys of why a system should exist. And if you are the head of the system in any situation, you are the one who have to define that. Yeah. Because if these whys are not solved, we're gonna be led by our unconscious dynamics, and these unconscious dynamics will unfold as war that will require the enhancement of AI to a point in which AI gonna control us, gonna control it. It does control already feelings. It does control already words. It does already control uh, concepts. As I say, it also can explode your brain, as happened to my ex-girlfriend. She was given an aneurysm, and I was in Australia. I was locked in a mental health cyborg. But why? Why have not myself? I've not done anything wrong. I have no quarrel with the law. I I wish I could be taken to a court, but yeah, I was uh, never taken to a court because it feels that it's rather power that try to use people as tools, and maybe they thought, this guy seems to be very stupid. It doesn't dress as we dress. It doesn't speak as we speak. It doesn't look as we do. He's poor. He's outspoken. He's maybe not someone who, I don't know, listen, whatever. Uneducated. I don't know what they thought. Uh, but eventually I was targeted because they thought I was just a piece of meat. And maybe the people in Palestine feels like that, but the situation is more brutalized over there because at least I'm in one of the most safest places in Earth, which means that whatever was happening to me wouldn't have been easily unnoticed. But uh, then in the long term, it's very likely that this technology is gonna make us less humans. But okay, what is the solution? So, one of the important things is to see what the hell is the Epstein list. Look, the Epstein list, we are talking about pedophiles, but obviously they can put anyone in that list. So we gotta be mindful that not everyone in that list is a criminal per se. Yeah. But there might be hints, or there might be intelligence about people who definitely are pedophiles. One of the problems of the pedophiles in power is that many of these people uh, will see this ideology, let's say the Christian kind of approach to a sheep, that you will have the sheep and you will kill the sheep because the sheep is the duty of the and now is the AI trying to vomit another kind of words instead of the ones that I want to say. So you have the sheep that will be the victim, the naive, the young, the youth, the youth, the young, the the sheep will be property of the shepherd, and the sheep becomes the symbol of pureness, naiveness, uh, and it's not seen as the possibility, but rather is seen as what is there for you to use because God wants you to use it. Then the extreme version of that, when you have humans that see other humans as animals, or humans that see other humans as pieces of matter, or humans that, who know that they can manipulate others, then they will see themselves as the shepherd and the others as the sheep. And when you see the extreme of this sheep that is the small young kind of a animal that is there, I don't know, to be eating, the animal that you will use the wool for whatever purpose you want, etc. Then the extreme version of that is someone who knows about power, knows how to steer people, and see themselves entitled to the point of raping a baby, because it might be the, let's say, the most extreme situation in which the use of violence, power, without accountability, etc., could be used. And being, yeah, in that extreme, let's say, following that kind of ideology consciously or unconsciously, it the extreme, it, it yeah, it's revealed or finalized in that kind of act, yeah, in that kind of situation in which the most powerful, yeah, attacks the most vulnerable. And if the person do not attack the most vulnerable, then it's not seen as powerful enough, because if that person does not do that, then he'll be his power, her power, well, mainly it's men, you know, his power will be diminished. So then we see Netanyahu, yeah, with the technology, with everything, just kicking and kicking again the weak continuously, etc. Because if he stopped, he might be seen as someone weak. Okay, I'm gonna finish this video. I'm gonna start another one.